Things are gonna get better now, but you're still a drunken slob. Things are gonna get better now.
Oh yeah,
You wish you
they just got better again. How about that? It's been a while, huh? Since a Headbangers and Hooligans podcast. Been doing so many videos lately that the podcast is taking a little bit of a backseat. But as you can see, I didn't forget about you. As always, thank you for listening. Yours truly, Scummalicious, ready to deliver once again. And as with everything else, stay patient with me. It's a work in progress, the whole YouTube thing. And I'm not one of them people that, get all worked up when people write negative shit to me. I did a review of the Propaganda album, and there was, a guy on there, "Get to the review already, I fucking fell asleep." Well, maybe it did take a little bit of time to get the review, but like I said, I'm a work in progress. It's not easy when you're trying to take over the internet, right? You know that. At any rate, even if it's not enjoyable, I appreciate anybody that takes time out to listen to me. Alright. If you visited the Facebook page, which I know you did, because I've seen it, every Wednesday, I kind of wanted to get back to a format, and I know I got the Band of the Month thing going, but I wanted to set aside a couple days for a certain thing, kind of a routine. I think it's better to have a routine on certain days. Monday is always set aside for heavy metal, it just makes sense. When you've been partying all weekend, you got that splitting headache, right? The best cure for a hangover is heavy metal. But I did like the segment Underrated or Overrated. I did that a few times, and I thought, you know what? Let's do that every Wednesday, every hump day is underrated or overrated. I just think it makes sense. We'll try it. We'll see how everyone likes it, and let's do this. Alright. Judas Priest. It's a band I've talked about a little bit lately, especially with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing, being nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. By the way, if you haven't seen it or seen them, 2 videos, go ahead and check out the YouTube channel. I uploaded my Headbanger Hall of Fame and my Hooligan Hall of Fame. And Judas Priest is not in my Headbanger Hall of Fame, but that doesn't mean I think they suck, because they don't. They really don't. I think they're a good band. I just don't think they're on the same level as Iron Maiden. That's just my opinion. You can look at the discography, and I made that argument forever. Take all of Judas Priest, their discography, put it against Iron Maiden. It's not even close. I just think Iron Maiden has had a better career. But that's not to say that Judas Priest hasn't recorded some legendary music, and I respect them as musicians. Just not to the level of Iron Maiden. But I'm going to give them a little bit of love today. A little bit of love and a little bit of hate. And what I'm going to start with is Overrated. And I'm talking about the album British Steel. And I gotta admit, for the longest time, in my head, and just talking to friends and stuff, I'd be like, yeah, British Steel, it's a great album. Judas Priest. And mainly because of 2 songs. And after thinking it through and listening to the album again a few times, I'm telling you, in my opinion, I like British Steel for one song. Alright? So let me explain. As you know, 1980, British Steel, and I think there's 2 or 3 different versions of it. I'm going with the original, the 1980 release. Okay, it had 9 songs on it. That's what I'm basing this argument on. Alright? Rapid Fire, first song. But it's okay. The thing with British Steel, it was kind of a departure, not kind of. It was a departure from the albums before it, where kind of darker material, and almost, and I'm not saying it's exactly like AC/DC, but there are a lot of similar, the songs are structured like AC/DC songs. They really are, you know. And remember, I've always said there's nothing wrong with simple. Simple can be very good sometimes. But in this case, for me, I think it's a little bit of a mistake. You know, that's my argument here, and I'm going to explain it. So, Rapid Fire, lead track, to me, it's okay. It's not amazing, but it's not terrible. Second song, Metal Gods. And it's a lot like the first track to me. Kind of mid-tempo, you know. Kind of a simple rhythm. And I'm not saying just exactly like AC/DC. I'm saying the formula. You know, kind of 3 chords. Kind of know where the song's going. You know, and the lyrics. A lot of the lyrics on this album, pretty generic to me. And listen, Judas Priest can write some songs, regardless of what I said about comparing them to Iron Maiden. I know they can write some songs. They've proven that. But some of the lyrics here, I'm like, just they kind of feel generic. Metal Gods, fearing for our lives, and the choruses, Metal Gods. It's, you know, it's just not a memorable song to me. It's not a song I want to listen to over and over. Alright, third song, Breaking the Law. Now here's the song where I kind of changed my mind on just a little bit, and I'll tell you why. Anybody that's listened to metal like me, I mean, it's one of the most iconic metal riffs of all time. I love playing it on guitar. I love that riff. And it is a great riff, and it really is the only great thing about the song. Because that's the only part of the song that's really that good. And I know, just, if you're a hardcore Judas Priest fan, I apologize. I'm not trying to shred your band here. And I'm going to give some credit here on their Underrated album. But the song really is kind of boring without that part. You only get excited about the song when that little lead part comes in. God, don't you just fucking love those sound effects? And I kind of miss that. You know, those sound effects are always better in a podcast than in video form. Just my opinion. Anyway, and think about the chorus: breaking the law, breaking the law, dan dan, breaking the law, breaking the law. It really is kind of a boring chorus. All right, but you know, you're still going to listen to the song because of that riff. It's an awesome riff. All right, Grinder, song number 4. When you listen to it, who do you think of? It's AC/DC. You really do on this song. And remember, nothing wrong with simple, but it feels like they really made a decision that they wanted this album a little more commercial, more acceptable, right? commercially accessible. Is that the word I want to use? You know, big words confuse me sometimes, but I'll still use them because it makes me sound smart. Anyway, you know, that's the way a lot of this album feels to me. Like, I'm not saying that Judas Priest sold out. You know, it just, the album feels like, you know what, we're going to write some simpler songs. They're going to be funner to play. And, you know, it worked out. You know, a lot of Judas Priest fans love this album. And there's probably a lot of, you know, fans that aren't huge Judas Priest fans that like this album. Number 5, the song United. Now, to me, the guitar riff is kind of generic, nothing new about it. But these lyrics, this, to me, is a huge downfall on this album, are some of the lyrics. And tell me, when you hear these words, tell me what you think of. Look around, they're moving. Hold your ground. When they begin, gonna keep on driving, never stop. United, united we stand. United, we shall never fall. I feel like I'm watching like some cheesy B-budget 80s movie, you know, where it's like a nightclub scene and a band is playing that song with, you know, the keyboard is going crazy on stage. Those lyrics, that's just, Judas Priest has wrote way better. Judas Priest has come up with better lyrics than that. We know this. We've heard them. You know, it just comes off cheesy to me, and it really makes it worse when because of this album, the way it's perceived. You know, it's really not a legendary album. If you read a lot of the lyrics to these songs, you don't have to be old to be wise. I'm sorry, I didn't write any of the lyrics down. That song is just a filler to me. It really is. Living After Midnight. It's a great song. In every year, they're going to be playing this song, you know, when I'm dead and gone, 50 years from now. It's been playing for, what, going on 40 years now. I mean, it's one of those iconic songs. You can't go wrong with that song. The rhythm part's amazing. It's got a nice solo in it. Rob Halford sounds great as always on it. That's a fucking kick-ass song. You know, love him till the morning, then I'm gone. You know, it's funny, because I remember, you know, this was before we knew that Rob Halford was gay. You know, all the dudes are like, yeah, Rob Halford, love him until the morning, and then you're gone. That's right. Oh, wait. Yeah. Could have been you. It's like, Rob Halford took me home. I'm not ripping on gay people. I'm just saying, you know, before we found that out, all the guys were doing high fives. Yeah, that's our boy right there. Song 8, The Rage. I'm telling you, just, it's another song. Just feels like it's going through the motions. You know, a lot of mid-tempo songs on this album. You know, not real fast, not real slow. You know, kind of the same chord structure. And then Steeler, the last track. Now, nice solo. I like the guitars on this. And now, here's an example of where Rob Halford sings good lyrics. Waiting like jackals to sneak up and trick you. Wolves in sheep's clothing. Slow death in consoling. And that's the Judas Priest that I know is there and that can rip off a blistering solo. Nice lyrics. Rob Halford can sing them, you know. And you know, Judas Priest, listen. Glenn Tipton, KK Downing, on Defenders of the Faith and Screaming for Vengeance. they can shred like no other. Their dual guitar solos are fucking insane. The talent's there, right? But for me, I mean, just going through that album again and listening to it, and about 3 times total over the last couple of days, that, I'm telling you, that album does not stack up against legendary albums, especially heavy metal albums of that era. So that's overrated. What's underrated? I'm gonna tell you, it's Turbo. That's right, 1986. We're talking synthesized guitars. Remember that? That was a huge deal. Oh wow! Because remember, Iron Maiden did that on Somewhere in Time also. But I think Turbo, for Judas Priest, keyboards were a much bigger part of their sound for their album than Somewhere in Time was for Iron Maiden. And of course, we get the video. First track, Turbo Lover. Don't you remember that? I'm your turbo lover. Dun, dun, tell me there's no other. Dun, dun. You know, and I remember, because I was 15 at the time, and actually I remember my cousin a lot. We loved this album. And you know what? It's a fun album. And I think some people would consider British Steel a fun album. But the songs are better on Turbo. It really is. To me, it's more of a complete album. And listen, I know there's probably a lot of hardcore Judas Priest fans that will disagree with me. But that's just my opinion. Alright, Locked In. Love the song. I remember I got this cassette. Yes, this cassette. And Locked In. Da-na-na-na-na, locked inside your love. It's got that catchy riff. Rob Halford sounds awesome on it, and I rewound it about 3 or 4 times when I first listened to it, because it's just a fucking catchy song. So already, first 2 songs, Turbo Lover, Locked In, alone, right there, to me, makes Turbo a better album than British Steel. I know, a lot of people, they're going to think that I'm some kind of fucking lunatic, which is fine, because a lot of people think that anyway. Just saying. Alright, third song, Private Property. And you know what, this does kind of go on the cheesy side too. Private Property, hands off, whoa, whoa. You know, it's kind of, I don't know, it does feel a little borderline cheesy, but it's still a song that you can listen to, right? Yeah, I mean, it's not terrible by any means. How about song number 4? We don't need no parental guidance here. Da-da-na. I think it's a great song, you know, and it goes with the theme of this album, which is fun, partying, having a good time. We got the 80s keyboards going, but there's still enough of the heavy guitars that we're used to from Judas Priest. They're in there just enough, so it's not, you know, it's not just total like lover boy keyboards, right? Yeah, we're still getting the metal guitar. That's what makes the album so good. Then song 5, or last song, first side of my cassette, Rock You All Around the World. You know, every boy and girl goes crazy to the beat of rock and roll. And that's another one. It's kind of like the song Private Property. Borderline cheesy. Borderline, I said. But still not cheesy enough to be like, well, that's a terrible album. And I understand. This is my opinion. So I can understand if there's some fans be like, what are you talking about? You know? And I didn't really look up this album to see what the perception of it was, but I never really hear it mentioned a lot when people talk about the history of Judas Priest. I mean, not for me personally. I don't see a bunch of people going, "Oh, you got to get fucking Turbo from Judas Priest," you know. I just do. I think it's an underrated album. All right, flip the cassette over. Wild Nights and then Hot and Crazy Days. I mean, it's kind of funny. First we get Private Property, then Parental Guidance, then we get Rock You All Around the World, and then we follow that up with Wild Nights, Hot and Crazy Days. Just going with that theme throughout the whole album. A lot of fun, a lot of partying. It's the 80s. Song 7, Out in the Cold. Yeah. This is one of those, it feels like a filler, you know. And Hot for Love, also, the next song, feels like a filler to me. But that's okay, because of the other songs that make up, you know, for the not so good ones. Reckless. That is a badass song. That's the one song on this album to me that sounds like old school Judas Priest. It's got a great ass fucking metal guitar riff, you know. It's got a great chorus, and the guitars really stand out in that song. And then it finishes up with All Fired Up, which it's okay. It ain't nothing fantastic, but I will take the 10 songs altogether off Turbo over British Steel. And like I said, I know there's probably some Judas Priest fans that are like, what the fuck are you talking about? How can you say that about an iconic album like British Steel? Now listen, I'm not saying British Steel is just this crappy album. It's not, but I'm telling you, go listen to that album all the way through and pick out how many songs you would listen to over and over again. And you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. You know? Maybe I'm the one that's not paying attention or doesn't understand what good music is. But for me, Turbo has better songs that I would listen to over and over again. And there you go. Judas Priest, underrated and overrated. Yeah, I like that. We'll do this again next Wednesday. Alright, you know how I do this. Take it easy, and if it's easy, take it twice.